Good Monday morning to you. For Taylor Sue, I'm Regan Devines in Caracas, Venezuela. Thank you so much for being here with us on From the South. Our top story takes us in Venezuela, where the border crisis continues. The Colombian Defense Ministry issued a statement claiming 2 Venezuelan military aircraft had entered Colombian airspace unauthorized. According to the statement, the violation happened on Saturday. Hours after the statement was released, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Delcy Rodriguez rejected the accusations through her Twitter account. The Foreign Minister said the claim was a fabrication which seemed to aim at frustrating an upcoming meeting between Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his Colombian counterpart Juan Manuel Santos. The meeting is being coordinated by regional institutions UNASUR and CELAC. And in Mexico, another suspect of the gruesome murder of photojournalist Ruben Espinosa, activist Nadia Vera, and 3 other people has been jailed. The suspect was identified as Cesar Martinez Zendejas. He is said to be linked to the Zetas drug cartel and that he was attempting to steal cocaine from one of the victims, who was a woman from Colombia. The authorities have detained the 3 men that allegedly killed the 5 persons after torturing them. The 3 were caught on CCTV footage leaving the apartment building. Ruben Espinosa was supposedly a critical photojournalist working with Proceso magazine. He and Nadia Vera had received threats by the government of Veracruz. In Chile, protesters clashed with police, marking the 42nd anniversary since the coup that brought a brutal dictatorship led by Augusto Pinochet to power. 4 people and 2 police were injured. Demonstrators, as well as human rights groups, are demanding that authorities hold officials from the dictatorship era accountable for their crimes. Among the demonstrators were relatives of those kidnapped and murdered during the dictatorship. At least 1,000 people were killed or disappeared during the Pinochet era. Only a handful of cases had been resolved.
An homage to all the victims of the military dictatorship and to those who fight for social justice. Hero.
As talks between the European Union and Cuba continue in the Caribbean nation's capital, Havana, the U.S. government announced it will hold a new meeting with Cuban authorities in November. The talks will be held in Washington and will coincide with the 6th round of negotiations between Cuba and the European Union. The meeting between Cuba and U.S. officials will analyze progress made in the bilateral agenda seeking to normalize relations between both nations. Cuba has insisted that for relations to be fully normalized, the 5-decade-old blockade on the island nation must be lifted and the U.S. military must evacuate Guantanamo Bay and return it to Cuba. Drug trafficker Jared Oropeza arrived in Peru after months on the run from authorities. Oropeza was captured in neighboring Ecuador. The man is accused of running a gang that exports drugs to Europe. Authorities first learned of his illegal network a year ago when they investigated the lavish lifestyle of the trafficker. Peru is now considered the world's top cocaine producer by both the United Nations and the United States government. And now a brief at other stories making headlines across the globe.
And the refugee crisis in Europe continues. In the early hours of Monday, dozens of bodies were discovered washed at the shore of a Greek island. 34 migrants, half of them babies and children, drowned after the boat sank. 30 survivors from the same boat were rescued on Farmakonisi Island, and close to 70 were found still alive in the water. The victims are believed to be Syrian citizens. It is the biggest death toll in Greek waters since the refugee crisis began. Authorities blame the death on Turkish traffickers. This year, at least 2,600 refugees have died at sea.
Another tragedy caused by the Turkish traffickers. There was a clear murder today, and Europe has to declare the war on these ruthless criminals yesterday.
Australia's beleaguered Prime Minister has been ousted from his position by an internal government challenge, and the party's former leader Malcolm Turnbull has been elected to replace him. The Prime Minister Tony Abbott lost the leadership ballot by members of his Conservative Party just about an hour ago, following the second challenge to his position this year. The challenge in leadership comes as the 2-year-old Conservative coalition government struggles in opinion polls. Liberal Party Whip Scott Bolchot told reporters that lawmakers voted 54-44 to replace Abbott with Turnbull.
Ultimately, the Prime Minister has not been capable of providing the economic leadership our nation needs. He has not been capable of providing the economic confidence that business needs.
Thousands of people were forced to flee their homes as swiftly spreading wildfire destroyed hundreds of homes. The fire rotted unchecked through the northern California village of Middletown and nearby communities. Fire officials said over 400 buildings were destroyed by the flames. Most of them are homes. A separate fire raging since Wednesday in the Northern Sierras has leveled more than 130 buildings and was threatening about 6,400 other structures. Thousands of residents have also been ordered to evacuate there.
These fires are burning in all directions. They're fuel-driven fires. The plume of smoke is creating its own weather, and so they're very unpredictable. They're throwing spot fires out ahead of themselves over a half mile in all directions.
An Egyptian security forces killed at least 12 persons, including 2 Mexican citizens. The incident is a case of mistaken identity, according to Egyptian officials. They say the forces mistook the tourists for terrorists. 10 other Mexicans were rushed to hospital with serious injuries. Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto condemned the deaths and demanded the Egyptian government to carry a thorough investigation. He also ordered more staff for the Mexican embassy in Cairo to assist the victims.
For a lighter side of the news, we go to sports. Novak Djokovic beat longtime rival Roger Federer in 2 sets to win the US Open, played at Flushing Meadows in New York. The 28-year-old Serb put an exclamation point on one of his greatest Grand Slam seasons of all time. He has won 3 of the year's 4 Grand Slam championships. The rivalry between Djokovic and Federer has developed into one of the sporting world's best shows of camaraderie and on-court skill. Both tennis players have met 42 times in their careers. Now they are now deadlocked, having each beaten the other 21 times.
It doesn't really matter. Well, we got to double digits now, and this says, I'm so, obviously flattered and honored to be a part of a elite group of players and legends of our sport that managed to win this many Grand Slam trophies in their lives and in their careers. So to be just mentioned alongside them, it's truly something special. And
great match. For more on these and other stories, please visit our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Regan Devines. We'll have another news brief for you just after midday.